Hey everybody, it's Jake McAfee with the McAfee Home Group. I'm back with Heather Ree. Hi there, how you doing?
Good.
Good. So last week we brought you a video about the downside of Airbnb. And while we do think it's a good investment, we're going to get into all that. We wanted to make sure that, we're cautioning people before they go jumping in on the trendy new thing, because again, that's where mistakes are made. So go ahead and check that video out. It's up on our YouTube. It's called The Downside of Airbnb Investing. For right now, we're going to talk about some of the benefits of Airbnb and why it is a good investment and why we both owned it, and she currently manages some. So this is something that we are involved in and do support. So Heather, why don't you get us kicked off with the first benefit?
Well, when you have a Airbnb, if it's done properly, the returns are higher than a traditional long-term rental. You have higher return on investment because you are able to charge more per night. And you have less maintenance and lower utility bills. There's less wear and tear. If you think about it, you would think that there would be higher wear and tear, more maintenance because people are in and out, but really there's less maintenance costs and there's lower utility bills.
Correct. And so another benefit is you have less commitment to that tenant. And this kind of piggybacks off what she was just saying about less wear and tear. If you have a long-term tenant, unless you're paying your property manager for quarterly inspections or you're going to look at it yourself, a lot of time I see people, they'll go a full year and they have no idea what they're walking into after a year. And even if, they don't have to be a horrible tenant, even if they're just a somewhat rough tenant or they have a dog that tears it up, someone living there constantly can really wreck a place and cost you a lot of money, or then you're fighting with them for it or trying to get it out of them. Where, the good thing about this is if you have a problem tenant, which you will have an Airbnb, but typically they're in and out quickly. So that's definitely one of the good things, is you just have a less of an interpersonal commitment with each person. One of the other benefits is, even though you are responsible for keeping up with a lot of the toilet paper and doing that type of stuff, if you get someone that stays long-term, which does happen sometimes, I think you just mentioned you have some nurses there that are on like longer-term contracts. A lot of times if they're staying there, they'll buy a lot of that stuff. They'll just buy the toiletries that they need and laundry detergent and stuff like that if they're going to be there for the long haul. So that can save you a little bit of money as well. But I really think the key thing to know is that you have less risk per person, and I think that's a huge benefit. So.
I agree with you, and then you also have to rate each person as they leave, which you can't really do if you have a long-term tenant. Of course, you can give a bad referral to the next landlord, but on Airbnb you have to give them a star rating. So they want that higher score so that they'll have better a better experience in Airbnb in the future when they stay again.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. They're incentivized to do a good job too, because if they're Airbnb travelers, like she said, you rate them. So if they come in and trash your place, which again, it will happen at some point if you've been doing it long enough. But I think the key to remember is that when they get that bad review, it can lock them out of Airbnb, and most people, that means something to them. So your incentives are aligned, where sometimes with a long-term tenant, any landlords out there know that sometimes you get tenants who simply just don't care. And they don't care if you trash their credit because they don't have good credit anymore anyway. So I do agree. I think your incentives are aligned. So you want to take the next one?
Sure. So right now I manage 6 Airbnbs, and as of right now I'm cleaning every single one of them myself. So that's a good thing, even though it takes a lot of my day away. But I get to see, if a window's broken or the blinds are broken. I get to know if the pipes are slow, because I'm actually going to be doing dishes in there or cleaning the bathtub. So I get to see, what maintenance might need to be done, but I also am able to clean it so I know that it's, in tip-top shape all of the time. And that keeps your value up. And then, I also am a property manager, so I have tenants that never clean out their dryer lint. And so that's something, at the end of the lease, I wouldn't know that the lint is blocked up all through the wall right now, which has happened this past year. So being there every day or every week between tenants, which are Airbnb guests, I get to see that, yes, the lint trap is clean and, there's nothing clogging up the toilet that you might find in a 6-month lease or a year lease, you don't find that out until they leave.
Exactly. I mean, you basically keep the place staged and in perfect condition at all times. I mean, if you're doing it right. I'm sure there's some Airbnb hosts that don't, but if you're doing it right, like when I sold mine, I really didn't have to do much. We steam cleaned the carpets. I think we touched up some paint and, maybe moved a little bit of a vase around or something, but you should be already keeping it perfectly cleaned and staged and ready to go and minimal. So if you ever did want to sell, it's not like if you've had a rental. I mean, you and I have sold enough properties to know, like, when you're showing a rental, you generally know, like, all right, clearly this was a rental for the last 5 years. It just looks rough. The details are not paid. They don't pay attention to details, or they had to put a bunch of money in to get it market ready. Where Airbnb, if you ever decide to move off it, I mean, you're ready to sell like that. You don't have to put any money into it, and it's staged and ready to go. So. Another benefit is, the big question we get asked all the time is, well, what happens if someone trashes it? Which does happen. And luckily, Airbnb has a $1 million damage coverage policy for the host. So they know the risk that you're taking, and they don't want your place to get trashed either. So that's something that all hosts get. And as long as you're, on good terms with Airbnb, you're following all the guidelines, you'll get that coverage. So. And then what about the next point?
So what the appeal is for for Airbnbs, besides being a novelty and you get to check out an apartment downtown that you might not ever see, is that it's kind of cheaper than a hotel room. Like, we're right across the street from a hotel right now, and I know that it's $99 a night to stay downtown, and that's just the flat rate. So, but then you have a city tax, a county tax, a transportation tax, all of those things on top of it, and now your hotel room is $160. So that is kind of the good things about Airbnb is that you can control the price. You're lower than a hotel room, and consumers they know the Airbnb hosts are vetted and they are reviewed. So if you want to know what the reviews are, you can look up any host on Airbnb. You can also look it up on a hotel, but you never know if you can trust that as well as you can other consumers. And there's a demand for Airbnb just because it's a novelty. It's something kind of new to the area, but it's something kind of new to the transportation industry as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you were saying, people trust the name. Like everyone calls it an Airbnb when really there's, VRBO and all these other ones. Yeah. But with Airbnb, at least people feel comfortable. It's kind of like one of those, it's almost becoming like one of those trusted blue blood names where if you're on Airbnb, they know that you're vetted and you can, unless they're a brand new traveler, you should have a track record on their travel history as well. So like both parties can feel comfortable with each other. Another good benefit is there's a huge variety of options that you can do with Airbnb. So, if you're a multifamily investor, it's pretty much, or if you're, let's say you're long-term buy and hold owner and you're renting out, a year or 2-year leases, a lot of people want that duplex, triplex, fourplex because it's going to get the higher returns. There's only so many of those, especially right now. I mean, how many clients do we have? We have so many people that want one and we just can't find them unless they're some rough ones. But the good thing about Airbnb is you can pretty much, as long as the numbers make sense, you can pretty much turn anything into an Airbnb. A condo, a one-bedroom house. You try to rent a one-bedroom house, you're not going to get very much money for it. But some people would love to not share a wall for the night, and again, they're saving money on what it would be for a hotel. So you could almost double the rent that you could get on a typical one-bedroom house. So they go from kind of obsolete to being in need. Or I know some investors here actually in Fort Wayne who rent huge houses, and they can sleep up to like 16, 20 people, and they get a charge like I think $25 or $50 a head over 4 people or something like that. And that's more for like big groups coming for funerals, for weddings, for sports. Yeah, whenever you have, yeah, exactly. That's a good one. Like if there's a couple families that are friends and they're all coming for a tournament. So you can make a lot of money doing that. And again, you're helping them. So like it's kind of a cool bonding experience for, 3 families to go to an AAU tournament together. And instead of being all in separate hotel rooms, it's like they're kind of bonding in close proximity in one of these big houses. So the type of house, it just opens it wide up. As long as there's a local attraction and you've vetted that there's a demand, you can pretty much make any property work.
Even a shed. I don't know if you know this, but in Fort Wayne they have a tiny shed Airbnb that is booked constantly.
I think I did see that. I did see that.
Yeah.
I didn't stay in the shed. So even sheds.
Not yet.
Yeah. So, all right, well, on to the next one.
So for Airbnb, it's you control the schedule. So if you want to have an Airbnb, or maybe even in a different state, and have someone else manage it, and then you can use it. So if you wanted one in Florida or Texas, and then if you wanted to visit yourself or stay in it yourself, then you control that schedule. So it doesn't have to be open to the public at all times, which is a nice feature to have. And like you used one when you moved here from Florida.
Yeah, that was really helpful. So when we were living in Orlando, we had an Airbnb here by Lakeside Park in Fort Wayne. Did great, had a good experience, and it was profitable. And then we decided to move back to Fort Wayne, and where that's always a big task, moving across the country, but it really took a lot of pressure off. I was able to stage my house in Florida. I drove up a bunch of stuff and put it in the garage at the Airbnb, and then we eventually moved into it. And then that gave us the leverage to get in, get settled. I could get to work, start over on my career, and go find a house and not have to rush and say, hey, we're moving across country. We got one weekend to find the house. It's a lot of pressure, and you're kind of at the mercy of the inventory, which right now is so low. So, being able to use it for your own benefit is huge. One thing I would caution, though, I think something to keep in mind, especially when I was living in Florida, I used to have this conversation a lot, is I had friends say, well, I want to buy one here and then I can vacation for free. And you're not really vacationing for free, because you have the opportunity cost. If you're staying in it, you didn't rent it out. So you're technically, let's say you could rent it out for $1,000 a week, in a vacation or a touristy town. You just lost $1,000 doing that. Maybe sometimes you'd be better off, or you'd get a different experience doing it somewhere else. Not saying it's bad. I'm just saying make sure that you're being honest with yourself and knowing that, you're really not staying for free because of the opportunity cost. But if you know that, let's say you've got, in Indy, I've got someone who's, in politics in Indianapolis, and they have a condo down there, but if they wanted to, they could Airbnb it and then stay in it when they needed it and could make it work. So just, kind of beginning with the end in mind, but it's a really cool option that you have. So, and then the final one, I'll let you go ahead and take this one. You added this one in there.
So yeah, when you're investing in real estate, you've got what people say toilets and tenants. If you're going to be a landlord, you've got several different options. Note buying, long-term buy and holds. But I think that Airbnb is on a scale from 1 to 5. It's one of the funnest ways to be a real estate investor. It's probably more on the 5 side, because you get to decorate, you get to impress the guests, and you get to show off the town. So, if you're put all of the other things aside, it is one of the funnest ways to be able to invest in real estate.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I see sometimes when people are flipping a house or something, and they over improve it because they just think it looks pretty, and it's like, you probably could have spent 30% less and sold the house for the same. Where Airbnb, I think it makes a difference. Like you put your own spin on it, your own flavor. So even though there might be 3 different options, if you've got a knack for decorating, or you've got a knack for functionality on a house, and you can add something that no one else has, it really does give you, it's fun, it's creative, but then it also can, be lucrative. So I think that's a really good point. So I don't know if you have anything else to add.
I don't think so.
I think we pretty much covered it. So as you can see, following up on last week, we do think Airbnb is a great investment. If you've got more questions about it, either reach out to Heather or myself. And if you like what you heard today, our intention is to bring value. So go ahead and follow us, subscribe to our YouTube, McAfee Home Group, or follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or connect on LinkedIn. All right, until next time, thanks.
Goodbye.